They learned it young, the art of survival through radiance. For some, it was a smile. For others, a spark of confidence, charm, or emotional strength. But for many born under the sign of Leo and resonating deeply with the shadow-bound heart of a Scorpio, it was this: when you shine, people stay. When you are bright, they applaud. When you seem strong, they depend on you. And so slowly, without even realizing it, and you begin to wrap yourself in light not as celebration, but as armor. It becomes your offering, your shield, your proof that you are worthy of love. The more people respond to your joy, the more you learn to hide your grief. The more they praise your confidence, the more you bury your doubts. And over time, the message etches itself into your nervous system. Be light or be left behind. But what no one tells you is that living this way has a cost. It hollows you out because no matter how bright you burn for others, no one seems to notice when your own flame starts to fade. They don't see the tiredness behind your smile or the way your laughter sometimes sounds just a little too practiced. They don't ask if you're okay, they assume you are, because you always seem to be, and somewhere along the way, you stop reaching out. You stop hoping that someone might see the version of you that isn't performing. You become the mask, and that, Scorpio, is the heartbreak you recognize not because you're trying to be the sun, but because you've spent your whole life feeling like the night no one knows how to sit with. This is about anyone who has felt the ache of being loved for what they give, but not for who they are. It's the pain of knowing that your light was once a lifeline, but now it's a prison. And that pain, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. And the moment you finally speak it, not with shame, but with the quiet certainty of someone who has nothing left to prove, that's the moment everything begins to change. Because you don't need to keep burning just to be seen. You were never meant to live your life as someone else's torch. You were meant to be whole, even in the dark, especially in the dark. The real pain doesn't come from the mask itself. It comes from the silence underneath it. That slow, gnawing ache that no one notices because on the outside, you still manage to laugh at the right time, nod when people talk, keep things light, easy, manageable, but beneath it all is a loneliness that doesn't announce itself with tears. It just lingers, cold and constant, like a second skin. And the most devastating part isn't that you're alone, it's that even when you're surrounded by people, even when you're doing everything right, even when you're needed and praised and wanted, you still feel invisible. Because no one sees the version of you that is too tired to hold it all together. No one sees the you who quietly breaks in the middle of the night, who lies awake wondering if anyone will ever love the version that isn't endlessly composed. Scorpio knows this silence. You don't just feel pain, you absorb it, carry it, study it until you've memorized every edge. You've learned how to survive in emotional isolation, not because you enjoy it, but because it feels safer than opening up and being met with misunderstanding or dismissal. You've been burned by shallow comfort, by people who say they care but vanish when your darkness doesn't tidy itself up fast enough. And so you become careful, too selective, almost surgical, in what you show. You give pieces of truth, never the whole story. You test the waters before letting anyone close, because being seen is no longer a craving, it's a risk. And yet, under all that self-control and intensity, There's still a part of you aching to be held not for what you know, not for what you offer, but simply for existing. You want someone to notice when you're quiet, not because you're being dramatic, but because you're silently drowning. You want someone to ask, "How are you?" Really, and mean it. And the truth is, most people don't get there. They fall in love with your resilience, your depth, your ability to survive anything. But very few stick around long enough to understand what survival actually costs. That's the heartbreak you carry, like a hidden scar, that no one truly knows how much effort it takes just to appear okay. That your strength, the very thing others admire, is also the thing that isolates you, because when you're always the one who's got it, no one thinks to ask if maybe, just maybe, you don't. And that silence, the one between what people see and what you're actually holding, is where your deepest pain lives. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's constant, and it shapes everything. At the center of it all lies a belief so subtle, so deeply rooted, that it doesn't feel like a thought, it feels like the truth. I am only valuable when I give others something to feel good about. For Leo, this often looks like radiance being the source of light, of confidence, of energy that others gather around. But when that belief enters the realm of Scorpio, it morphs into something more shadowed, more intimate, more dangerous. It becomes, I am only safe, only loved, only wanted when I offer intensity, insight, emotional labor, or control. You begin to measure your worth by what you can carry for others, by how much of yourself you can pour into them without asking anything in return. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, you become less of a person and more of a role. The healer, the anchor, the mirror, as the one who holds space, even when no one holds it for you. And that's the core wound, not the pain itself, but the belief that your identity must be sacrificed for others to stay close. You shapeshift, you shrink, you stretch, you become what people need, because deep down, you fear that if you were to show up in your rawness, in your grief, in your complexity, in your stillness, they wouldn't stay. So you give more, you hold back less. You become hyper aware of their moods, their wounds, their needs, while yours stay locked behind an emotional vault you've long stopped trying to open. What starts as love becomes obligation. What begins as care becomes captivity. That's the golden cage, the illusion that being everything to others will one day bring you what you've longed for, to be seen, to be chosen, to be kept. But the reality is colder, because no matter how much you give, no matter how much you burn for them, there's an emptiness that keeps echoing back. You light up the path for others, but your own is dark. You help others transform, but you stay stuck. You make it look effortless, but inside, you're running on fumes. And what hurts the most is that no one even suspects. You've done the job too well. The mask is too convincing. They admire the version of you that keeps performing, but they've never met the version who's too tired to get out of bed. This is where the soul begins to fracture, where you start forgetting who you are without the performance, where the silence becomes louder than the applause, where your intuition whispers that you've been living a life scripted by survival, not by truth. And that is a devastating realization, especially for a sign like Scorpio, who values truth more than comfort. who was never meant to live half alive behind roles that keep others safe, but leave you starved. But it's also the first step home, because the moment you name the wound, the belief that your worth is tied to your usefulness, you begin to reclaim what was always yours. The right to be whole, the right to take up space, the right to stop saving others just to be allowed to stay. Not every Scorpio carries their pain in the same place, though all of them carry it with a kind of quiet, enduring dignity that the world rarely sees. The wound is shared, but its expression shifts depending on the day they were born. 3 waves of Scorpio energy, each with its own signature ache, each shaped by different emotional battles, but all asking the same unspoken question: will anyone stay if they see who I really am beneath the silence? For those born between the 23rd of October and the 1st of November, the pain lives in intimacy. You love hard. You love with a kind of devotion that borders on spiritual. You sense what others need before they say a word. But somewhere along the line, you learned that the full weight of your emotions was too much. You started dimming, softening, filtering yourself so you wouldn't overwhelm the people you cared about. And so now, even in relationships, there's a loneliness that never quite leaves. A feeling of being emotionally exiled, even in someone's arms. You wonder if anyone will ever truly see you, not just the loving, attentive version, but the one who gets jealous, the one who feels rage. As the one who needs to be held without earning it, you long for a love that sees your shadows and stays anyway. But because you're afraid that exposing your rawness will push people away, you hide, and in doing so, you keep starving the very part of you that needs connection the most. For those born between the 2nd of November and the 11th of November, the wound seeps into your sense of value. You're the quiet powerhouse, the one who sees through the noise, who moves through life with emotional precision, who carries others through storms without ever announcing your own. You're competent, capable, resilient, but the recognition rarely matches the depth of what you give. People admire your strength, but fear your depth. They want your guidance, but rarely offer space for your softness. And so you work harder, give more, polish your edges until you shine just enough to be palatable. But deep down, there's this ache, this sharp, unspoken grief that no matter how much you do, no matter how well you perform, you still feel unseen. Not for lack of visibility, but because they're all looking at the wrong version of you. You've been rewarded for the mask, but it's your soul that's begging to be recognized. And for those born between the 12th of November and the 21st of November, the pain comes from the pressure of being the emotional anchor. People come to you because you're safe, because you listen without judgment, because your presence feels like home. But what they don't see is the toll it takes to always be the one holding everyone else together. You're so used to carrying others that you've forgotten how to be carried. You've been the rock, the rescuer, the silent protector, and now, even when you're falling apart, no one notices. Or worse, they still lean on you. You're so good at wearing the calm exterior that even you've started to believe you don't need help. But you do. You've just gone so long without being asked how you're really doing that. You've started to equate love with labor. You've built your identity around being unshakable. And now you're left wondering who you are when no one needs saving. 3 shades of silence, 3 kinds of invisible ache, but they all lead to the same truth. You are allowed to be seen in your full emotional reality, not just the parts that are easy to love. You don't have to earn closeness through control. You don't have to perform safety to be kept. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. The pain has been trying to tell you this for years, not to shame you, but to bring you home to the version of yourself that no longer needs to be everything for everyone. Just to feel like enough. This pain wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to wake you. And I know that sounds almost cruel at first, because when you've been strong for so long, when your silence has been your only form of protection, the idea that your suffering holds purpose feels hollow. But Scorpio, your soul didn't come here for shallow comfort. It came here for depth, for truth, for the kind of transformation that only comes when you're willing to look your wounds in the eye and say, I see you, I hear you, I'm ready to listen now. Healing doesn't begin with fixing it, begins with facing. And the first step, maybe the hardest step, is admitting just how much you've been carrying, not just to others, but to yourself. The years of emotional labor, the nights you cried without letting a sound slip out, the moments you stayed strong, not because you were fine, but because you thought no one would be there if you fell. The way you've convinced everyone, even yourself, that you don't need softness, that you don't need support, that you're better off in control. That story has kept you alive, but it's also kept you alone. The invitation now is simple but terrifying. To put the mask down, not all at once, not with everyone, but enough to let your soul breathe, enough to let one person, maybe two, see you without the armor, enough to hear your own voice, again, not the filtered one you use to soothe others, but the raw, trembling, unapologetic voice of your inner world. You don't have to tell the whole truth overnight. You don't have to fall apart just to prove you're real, but you do have to stop pretending that you're untouched by what you carry, because you are touched. You're tired, you're heavy, you're overdue for rest. And real healing won't begin until you allow yourself to admit that. Start small, start slow, speak honestly when someone asks how you're doing. Let yourself cry and don't rush to wipe it away. Say, I don't have space right now. When someone tries to unload their chaos onto you, ask for help. Even if your voice shakes, these aren't signs of weakness. They are signs that the wall is cracking, and through those cracks, light is coming in. And here's what I've learned from watching others like you, those who've spent a lifetime guarding their shadows with silence. When you finally show up as you really are, not everyone will stay, but the right ones will come closer. The ones who love your soul, not just your service. The ones who don't need you to be perfect. The ones who feel safer because you are being honest, not because you're holding it all together. This is not the end of your strength. It's the beginning of your softness. And there's a different kind of power in that, a power that doesn't come from control or sacrifice, but from presence, from truth, from finally being whole. You were never meant to be an artificial sun, always glowing, always giving, always holding the world together while your own world quietly crumbles. That was never your sacred mission. Your true light was never meant to blind or burn itself out in the name of being needed. You came here to be something far more human, far more holy. You came here to embody a different kind of radiance, the kind that flickers when it needs rest, dims when it needs truth, and rises again, not for applause, but from alignment. Your light was never meant to be constant. It was meant to be real. There is strength in your softness. There is power in your pause. There is healing in your honesty. And when you stop trying to be everything for everyone, and you finally make room to become everything you were always meant to be for yourself. Scorpio doesn't shine in the way others do. Your light doesn't shout, it whispers, it glows from the inside, it survives what others fear, and it transforms the darkness into gold. You are not here to perform perfection. You are here to walk through the depths and return with truth in your hands. And if the pain still lingers, San, it probably will for a while. I want you to hold this truth close to your chest like a quiet flame. Your pain does not diminish you. It refines you. It doesn't make you less worthy. It makes you more real, more rooted, more awake. And if you've ever had to smile while your heart was breaking, if you've ever played the role while silently unraveling behind the scenes, then you are not alone. This message, this mirror, this moment, it was meant to find you, not to fix you, but to remind you you were never broken. You've simply outgrown the mask, and now, slowly, too gently, with grace, you are coming home. So, if this message stirred something in you, if a part of you whispered, "This is me," then I want you to know that was not a coincidence. That was your soul recognizing itself. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you didn't feel crazy for feeling so deeply. You didn't feel weak for being tired. You didn't feel wrong for needing more than just survival. You felt seen. In that, Scorpio is where healing begins, not in fixing, not in changing, but in finally being seen as you are, with nothing to hide and no one to impress. If this message spoke to you, leave a sign in the comment 7 if it's just a single word, an emoji, or a quiet, "I'm here." Let yourself be witnessed. You don't have to explain everything. You just have to show up honestly. And if you're ready to keep walking this path of truth and softness, subscribe. I'll be right here, beside you, every step of the way through the unraveling, through the remembering, through the quiet, courageous return to your true self. Your light is not gone. It's just waiting for you to stop hiding from it. And when you do, it won't just heal you. It will guide others home to